Good morning,
Good
and
morning.
thanks for spending time your Saturday, at least part of your Saturday, with Ron and Roman A. Reason for Reason. It's still a little early, Roman A.
I know.
And we was up late last night, wasn't we?
Probably. I was just watching TV.
Oh well, I went out, friend's birthday, so we went to celebrate a little bit last night. So I may still be a little tongue tied.
Or you was in the streets.
Well, okay, I wouldn't say the streets. I was visiting at a friend's house.
What your mama say in the streets?
Yeah, my mama might say in the streets.
Oh,
So you know what? Can't argue with mama wisdom. But anyway, we want to welcome you all to the show, and we need to acknowledge two very important days coming up. As you know, tomorrow is Father's Day, and we want to shout out all the fathers who are actively involved in the lives of their children. I like to think of Father's Day as somewhat of the forgotten holiday, and we'll get into the reasons why I say that. But also on Monday is Juneteenth, which here in Pennsylvania is recognized as a legal holiday. So it's this time, or that time of the year when we want to acknowledge our ancestors, their sacrifice, their struggle, and all they've done for us that we might be in positions we're in today. So shout out to the ancestors as well, as they say, Ashe. So, we're going to talk first about Father's Day. And I mentioned it being a forgotten holiday, and let me give you some reasons why. So, last month was Mother's Day, and if you don't make a reservation for a restaurant, weeks in advance, you're not going to get into one. It's just the simple fact. I've tried it. And I stood in line for hours trying to get into a decent restaurant on Mother's Day. So the restaurants are full. And as you know, Mother's Day falls on a Sunday, so everybody goes to church with Mama on Mother's Day. The churches are full. Well, Father's Day, you can walk into any restaurant in the country, with the exception of maybe, IHOP. But pretty much you can walk into any restaurant across this nation, no reservation required. If you got a party of 6,000, they got a table for you. The restaurants are pretty much empty on Father's Day. And then, just juxtaposing Father's Day and Mother's Day. So on Mother's Day, every florist is going to sell out. All the candy is off the shelves. Father's Day, the only thing that's missing are some socks and ties, right? So, it's kind of the forgotten holiday. And I think it is because of the diminished role of fathers and men in our society. And, I get it. Terry and I were talking off air. And we talked about how things have progressed. Now, one thing in America we have a difficult time doing, that's balancing things, right? So that we have equality. So I remember growing up, there was a TV show called Father Knows Best. Okay. So everything revolved around dad, right? Mom stayed at home. So when dad came home, you watch the show with Robin Young. He comes home, kisses his wife on the cheek. She hands him the newspaper. He sits down. She puts the meal in front of him. And life is so happy and perfect. Well, here we are. Now, that show was in the 50s.
In Shangri-La.
There we go. So now here we are about 70 years later. And there are no shows like that anymore. Nowadays, let's say a husband and wife are doing an interview. The interviewer will primarily talk to the woman. The man kind of sits there off to the side and he may answer a question or two. But for the most part, everything is pretty much directed toward the woman. And then you have, I'll give you a perfect example. Do you remember the interview Mike Tyson gave with Robin Givens? Barbara Walters interviewed them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they were talking about Mike Tyson like he wasn't even in the room,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that is kind of how, I guess, the pendulum has swung in terms of the role of men and fathers, right? And I think that, we need to acknowledge fathers. You know, because there are so many men across this country that are in their children's lives, that are a positive influence and role model. Like you last week, you spoke so lovingly of your dad, but how often do you hear that in our society?
I hear it a lot.
You do?
I hear it a lot. I think that society has painted this false perception of our dads, and it's just not who they are. I didn't just have one great dad; I had two.
Right.
Because I had my biological father and my stepfather,
Mm-hmm.
both phenomenal people.
Mm-hmm.
And you're even more phenomenal if you can if you can be a dad to somebody else's child.
Mm-hmm.
You're even a more phenomenal person. But I hear it a lot. I just spoke to my girlfriend the other day. She was crying because she's not in a position financially to go buy her father something. Her father's a great dad.
You know, I don't know if it's so much that we need the gifts. I think that for most men, and I don't want to be a spokesman for men across the planet, but I think it's the acknowledgement.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like I said, Terry and I were talking off air, and I can remember as a kid, small kid, Father's Day falls on Sunday, so we get up early that morning, we go to Sunday school. Then after Sunday school, regular service. And we were raised in a Baptist church. So, Baptist church gets out relatively early because in a Baptist church, you don't have what I'll call Holy Ghost breaks.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Where you have to take a break for the Holy Ghost,
Mm-hmm.
right? Things are relatively serene in Baptist churches. So you're probably out by maybe 2 o'clock, give or take. And by the time we get home, Dad would be sitting at the head of the table, and my mother would put his plate in front of him. Well, nowadays, you find that there are a lot of women, particularly in this country, that would not do that. And it's not so much that, hey, look, I can walk to the kitchen, I can fix my plate, and I can come and sit in front of me. But the idea is just the acknowledgement to say, I appreciate you. I appreciate all that you do, right? As being a husband, as being a father, as being an example to the children.
It's honor.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really, there are a lot of women because of, I guess, things like, I don't want to mischaracterize anything, but, you know, things like the Me Too movement, women's liberation movement. I think a lot of women have moved away from the concept of appreciation and they look at it as being subservient and serving a man. When in reality, it is just acknowledging, you know, it's Father's Day, right? Can the man have this one day? Can he get the big piece of chicken? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And again, the role of the man has been so diminished. And I get it, right? I understand that women did not get a fair shake in this country. And for the most part, in many respects, still do not. But the problem now is, how do we fix that problem by now diminishing the role of the man? How does that help to bring us together? Does it?
No, it doesn't.
Right.
And the ladies have to just fall back a little bit with this whole women's lib thing. And this is coming from somebody who's very independent.
Mhm.
I'm very independent, but I'm real comfortable in who I am as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, I don't just serve my husband, but even my 2 sons. When my 2 sons are at the table and I've prepared a meal, I serve my sons.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bible says, you know, this is for all the church folk. The Bible says to give honor where honor is due,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you have a husband and he's a provider and he's a cover and and he's undergirding your family, then you should give honor because honor is due there.
Mhm.
And then I say this: what you won't honor, some other woman will come and honor. Um, in your husband.
Well, that's
So,
true.
yeah, so you gotta,
Somebody's
we
phone
just
is
gotta
off.
we gotta do better. Not everything is about the women's lib movement, and not everything is about we are created equal. Not everything is about that. Sometimes it's just about again tapping into that softer side and being a woman and allowing him to be a man and honoring him for all that he does. Because men really do, especially our men. The brothers go through a lot out here.
Absolutely. And I think that acknowledgement goes a long way to giving or to encouraging men, right?
Mhm.
Because it's difficult, right? It's a struggle every day. And it's difficult when you don't receive the acknowledgement, you don't receive the encouragement. You don't have people saying, brother, I appreciate what you do.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's like for a man who's out there every day, working maybe 2 jobs, come home dead tired, still got a little time to play with the kids, right? Go to bed, get just enough sleep. By the time your eyes close good, it's time to get back up and start the grind again, right?
Mhm.
You don't hear enough about those men. What you hear is the negativity. Oh, brothers ain't what,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Don't trust this brother. Always maintain your own independence. And we talked about that last week about how are you independent in a relationship, right? So, and then you said individuality, right?
Mhm.
But I think what happens is for a lot of women, and I'm talking women of our generation, right? If you want the freshest fruit, you pick it from the tree.
Mhm.
Well, for us, we ain't falling off the tree no more, right? We got picked years ago. But for a lot of women entering into a relationship, the guard is up. And realistically, once the guard is up, it never comes down.
Ooh.
It never comes down. Why? Because in the back of your mind is what you've heard, what you've seen, your experience. So it's always, well, I got to have my own money because I can't rely on no man, right? I got to have my own bank account. I have to keep part of my life separate from his, right? So that guard never comes down. And again, in fairness, look, I know some sisters that placed their trust in the wrong man and got burned.
Mhm.
You remember Melba Moore?
Mhm.
She had a husband, as her manager,
Mhm.
and he drained her bank account to took off. And that happened. However, there are women who drained the man's bank account and took off, right?
Mhm.
So, we have these trust issues. And, for Black women who are the most educated class in the country right now, if those women who are the role models for younger women have trust issues, what are these younger sisters going to have? Are they going to have these trust issues going into a relationship? Because these are the fresh fruit that you're picking.
They're gonna need therapy. That's what they're gonna need.
They're going to need therapy?
They're gonna need therapy.
And why do you think so?
Because broken people produce broken people. Right?
That's
so
true.
if you're, and we talked about this on a prior show.
Mhm.
If you are broken and you're raising a young woman and you don't go and attempt to fix what's wrong with you, then you just perpetuate another generation who is broken.
Mhm.
Because everything you give her and everything you show her, the behavior you show her is the behavior of somebody broken.
Mhm.
The instructions you give her, like you just said, if she has trust issues, she instills what she thinks is normalcy
Mhm.
in her daughter, and it's really trust issues, right? So broken people produce broken people. It's just, it is what it is.
And that's absolutely true. But I just think that for men across this country, and I'm not talking about everybody, because all of us have someone in our family, someone we know, or someone we are aware of who is just an absolute deadbeat dad, right? There's no denying that.
Infidel.
Right. That's right. We know that they're out there, right? And they should come with warning, just like cigarette packs, right? Do not touch, side effects, right? But one of those side effects is now, in my case, okay, I've been married for over 30 years, right? But if I were to be single right now, I'm looking for a woman my age group. Somebody I can relate to. We might like the same things, the same sort of music. We might have the same maybe political, social views, things of that nature. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to use a perfect example. I'm going to use our brother Terry, right? Okay. So we're talking off air, and he's a single man, right? Okay. It's difficult for a man of our age group to find someone. Now let me tell you why. Okay. So, when you're trying to find somebody to be your life partner, right? You have to be able to come together on so many different levels, right? And when you're coming into the relationship and there's already trust issues, right? And again, the guard goes up, it does not come down, right? How do we form lasting relationships when already I don't trust you, you don't trust me, right? How do we make it?
You want me to really tell you what I think?
Please do.
I used to run a women's group, right? Did it in the church, and I did it outside of the church. And so we've actually had this conversation before about when you come into a relationship or a potential relationship, right? You meet somebody, and maybe this is somebody that has the potential to be, a mate, right? And you come in with trauma, or you come in, like you said, with trust issues. I think that he is called, you ready? I don't know how you're going to feel about it. He is called to minister to those hurts. And it's something about when it's genuine, a man is patient about it. He sees it. As a man, he sees it. He sees what it is, right? And he is called to minister to those hurts. And I believe that when it's God ordained, that's what happens. And vice versa. He has trust issues. Maybe the last few women he dealt with, maybe they were gold diggers. A woman can spot that too, because a man that's been dealing with gold diggers, he's reserved with what he gives now, because he's been stung so many times, right? So she has to minister in turn to those things too. But two people who see the potential of a relationship, they have to nurture and cultivate the relationship, right? And be patient and know. I just said this to somebody the other day. Rome wasn't built in a day.
Right.
And so, and that's true. It might sound cliche, but it's true. It really wasn't built in a day, right? And so, and in the words of my father, anything that's worth having in this world requires some sacrifice.
Absolutely.
And so you got to kind of nurture the relationship and give each other time, because you say it never comes down, but it could come down one brick at a time.
I think that may have been the situation in the past. Nowadays, I think that, and you hear this word used a lot, polarization. or polarized society.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we have become polarized. You know, we can't come together on very serious issues. Now, let's just think within the last month and a half, 10 people slaughtered in Buffalo in the supermarket, 21 in Uvalde, Texas. And this is just the latest, not even the latest, but a string of these shootings, these mass killings. And we still haven't found a solution. So we are a polarized society, whereas everybody is kind of dug in, right? And nobody's willing to compromise. And I think that if our leadership can't do it, and that's what we're looking to, then those same sort of issues are going to exist in our homes, where everybody is dug in and deeply entrenched and like, no, I'm right, you're wrong, and I'm not going to see things your way. I'm not going to compromise because I don't feel as if I have to. And of course, keep in mind in this country that more than 50% of the weddings end in divorce, right? We're not making it. So we're doing something wrong, right? And I don't really want to make this about relationships. I really want to just talk about how many fathers see things, right? Me being a father, I understand that there are so many, fathers out there that don't feel as if their role is acknowledged, that their role in the family, with the children, in the community, has been so greatly diminished. And it is because of the stereotypical Black man who is hypersexualized, who's irresponsible, who's lazy, right? Who's abusive. Now, that is the image that society presents. And unfortunately, it's the image that is broadcast around the world of us. The problem is when Black women begin to believe it and begin to look at us through that lens. And, I think that some Black women have bought into that stereotype because, again, you come into the relationship, it's like in boxing. They tell you at the start of the fight, protect yourself at all times. So the idea is to make sure your guard is up at all times. And that's what we're bringing into a relationship. That guard is up all the time. And for a brother that is active in his community, with his family, that is committed to his family, his relationship, you're constantly fighting against that. Because that's how people see you. Black man enters the room and people look. You can't really tell who a person is until you speak to them and get to know them. But the perception is when you come through that door that you're a predator.
But guess what, Mom? All of that's wonderful. I agree with everything you say. But when it comes to fathers and families and husbands and wives and that nuclear family, who cares what the outside people think and how much support and acknowledgement they give our husbands? The wives who chose these men to be fathers, because it's Father's Day. You chose him as the father of your children. So it's up to us to kind of honor them. And you're right, our men do feel like that. I had a conversation the other night with the person that I date, and he said, men are always overlooked. That's just what it is. We just overlooked. And I said, well, no, that's who you had chose. The person you chose overlooks you. These are all things you should be looking at. How
but
much
he
support?
chose you.
No, we're not talking about me.
Oh,
I'm not.
okay.
I don't have any children.
Okay.
But the person that you chose is the person that was responsible to make you feel supported or to make you feel like appreciated. So sometimes he can't believe the appreciation that he's extended. to the tune of yesterday, he was in the middle of a business deal and it wasn't going well.
Mhm.
So I got on the phone and started doing the cheerleader. If he can't do it, no one can. He couldn't believe it, right? But I mean, I did it as fun, but ultimately it kind of shifted his mood, right?
Mhm.
And hopefully everything with the deal is going to pan out. But you guys are not always used to that. And that's because of the women you're choosing. The same way you say women are choosing these deadbeat brothers,
Mhm.
men got to take some accountability for the sisters that they're choosing to.
Okay.
And not just sit and say, we're not acknowledged. But you chose her.
Well, I think that's part of the equation. I think the other part of the equation is the society oppressors. You know what I mean? I gotta wake up.
That's okay.
But anyway, I think that's the other part of the equation, right? Where, like I said, our sisters kind of buy into these stereotypes. And you gotta understand something. For young women, this fresh fruit off the vine, right? For them, they're looking to other women for advice, for leadership, for direction as it relates to dating and relationships. And what kind of information are they going to get from our sisters? Are they going to say, our sisters going to say, listen, give your heart and your trust and your support to this man? Or is it, listen, the girl talk, like, okay, look, you make sure you can take care of yourself. Don't trust no man. Because if he walks out on you, and more than likely he will, right? You have to be able to take care of yourself and your children.
More than likely he will.
Well, let's be honest now.
Oh my God.
Let's be honest now, right? Is that the prevailing perception with women?
I'm very involved with raising a little girl right now.
Mm-hmm.
Who I love dearly.
Mm-hmm.
I would never tell her who probably will. What I would say is, tuck a little something away.
Okay. So we're basically kind of on the same page.
No, Ron, but not because he probably will. No, not because of that, but just because, you know what? Tuck a little something away for a rainy day.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that rainy day might be with you and your husband.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But tuck a little something away for a rainy day.
Mm-hmm.
And, always
Mm-hmm.
be mindful to maintain some individuality.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say individuality, I don't really mean in totality independence. I mean, just don't lose yourself in a relationship, right? Because that's what we do.
Right.
We lose ourselves.
Right.
So maintain some individuality. Love yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
Love yourself. And allow him to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
The next question would be, okay, what does it mean to allow him to be a man?
Right.
Allow him to be a man. Allow him to hold the door, pull the chair, pay the bills. And not saying you can't help pay some bills, but he can't come lay up either.
Right.
So allow him to be the man. Because if you don't, eventually he'll resent you anyway.
Well, here's the thing. All that sounds good. But nowadays, when a man is doing what a man does naturally, they have a negative connotation nowadays. It's called toxic masculinity, right? Mm-hmm. What the hell is toxic masculinity?
Toxic masculinity is your son fell, he starts crying, he's 5, and you say, don't cry, you're a big boy, don't cry, be a man, that's toxic, because men cry. Toxic masculinity is thinking that this hypersexual behavior is what men do, and it's just part of who you guys are. That's toxic. These are all toxic things that we've associated with, well, not us, what you guys have associated with masculinity. And when we look at it and outside people look at it, it's toxic. Why is it toxic? Because it doesn't bear good fruit. It doesn't bear good fruit. What bears good fruit about you being hypersexual? What good fruit are we bearing by telling a little boy that he can't cry? So then when he's a man, he's walking around and he's bottling up everything because somebody told him men don't cry.
Right.
That's toxic.
So, but now, based on what you just said, there should be toxic femininity as well.
Absolutely.
But you never hear that term. You just hear toxic masculinity because the same activities you see with women. There are women who are hypersexualized. In fact, Terry and I were talking earlier about some of the posts you see on social media where you see women just about naked, some naked, gyrating on social media. I don't understand that, right? I mean, what is the purpose? Are you trying to gain attention from a man, or is it that you're trying to, I don't know, maybe set up some kind of sex website or something? I don't know. But the same things that you say are toxic with men, I see the same thing amongst women. But there's no negative connotation there. And I think that is because I think that women have formed some pretty strong movements.
No, I think that we haven't attached anything negative to the half-naked twerking young women on the internet because it's pleasing to men.
Well, you know what?
It's pleasing to men.
Well, what men? Because I if I see it, I go right past it. Right? Because what is it you're trying to sell? What is it you're trying? I mean,
You
what
guys
is
are
it? What's
older,
the
more
purpose?
mature men.
Exactly.
But the younger guys, they like that. They like that. And guess what? If they like it, then the girls keep doing it. When they figure out and the guys stop, feeding into it, they'll stop doing it.
But at the same time, right? I think the difference is the women's movement has told women, I can dress however I like. If I want to walk down the street completely naked, I have a right to do that. And this is something we were talking about, before you got here. Years ago, I'm talking probably 20, 25 years ago, it was rare to see a black woman wearing a thong on the beach. Well, okay, these thong bikinis.
Let me just say this. The Caucasian women were wearing them because it really wasn't a big deal when they wore them. It wasn't a big deal.
And you know why? Because these bikinis, if you want to call it that, I mean, it's just like dental floss, right? This was not designed for particular body shapes, right? So for black women, it was not something that was done, right? There was a degree of modesty. Well, I think what happened over time was sisters started seeing that Caucasian women were getting attention are wearing this dental floss. So now you see sisters on the beach, right, wearing the same sort of, bathing attire, but it's not designed for you, sis, right? Your body shape is different, right? Not all the time, but in many respects, it's different, right?
99% of the time.
There you go. So, here you are, right, with these, derrieres that God blessed us with.
That have been accentuated.
Right? And you got a thong, right? You can't even see the thong.
No, it's lost.
It's lost, right? But now women say, I have the right to do that. You can't dictate to me how to dress, right? How I should go and present myself to the world. I make that determination.
And guess what, Ron? I agree with that. But again, not that I agree with the thongs, because sometimes I'm flabbergasted when I see it. But I think that we have a right to wear whatever we want to wear. But when our society, our subculture, when we start to say, that's not attractive,
Mhm.
right? I think that they'll do less of it. They're really doing it because this generation behind us, they're really oversexed. Um, Everything is sexual,
Mhm.
so they're oversexed, and they think that that stuff is sexy because guess what? Husbands are going into places with their wives, and their wives are doing this stuff in front of everybody, and the husbands are smacking them on the booty.
Right.
Instead of saying cover your booty up, they smacking them on the booty.
Mhm.
So they're being encouraged to do this. And again, it comes back to the fellas because the fellas are supposed to be the head, right? So the brothers got to say, listen, sis, mother, sister, auntie, whatever. You look like this.
So let me ask you a question. And we're just going to deal with America. And let's just deal with this segment of America, black women, right? Just y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What percentage of black women in this country are under the belief that the man is the head of the household?
It's not a lot of us.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But they will hear them if they say that. You know why? Because they're doing it for them. So they're not doing that for themselves. They're doing that. They want attention. They want attention. You're not walking around with a thong that's lost,
Mm-hmm.
twerking,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not going and risking their lives, getting BBLs and all this stuff. That stuff is not for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the most dangerous surgery, the most dangerous surgery that you can have
Mhm.
is that Brazilian butt lift.
Okay.
And women are doing it, black women
Yeah.
who've already been blessed in that department and
Mhm.
really don't have to do it. They're adding more,
Mhm.
but they're not adding more for them. They're adding more because they think that that's what the brothers want to look at.
Mhm.
So the brothers have to, in turn, start saying, "Sis, that's not cool."
But we've been saying that for years. They don't listen. Y'all don't listen no more.
No,
Don't have a spiritual ear to listen.
You guys say that we don't listen, but then their whole Instagram pages. I seen them.
Mhm.
Their whole Instagram pages that are booty pages.
Mhm.
That when you look at who's on the page, like who follows the page,
Mhm.
it's all brothers
Mhm.
following the page, right?
Mhm.
Because it's known that brothers like women with a little booty.
Mhm.
No, a brother doesn't like a pancake,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So it's all brothers following the page.
Mhm.
But then you turn around and say, like Terry just said, we've been telling you that that's not cool. But if it's not cool, you're following it. You looking at it. You look to see one video of a girl just walking, because that's all the videos on those pages. She's walking past in the thong or whatever, and you look to see how many views. 1.2 million views or
Mhm.
whatever.
And they all young boys.
But I'll tell you something. Now, I remember when 42nd Street was Sodom and Gomorrah.
Mm-hmm.
So you go up there and you would see the prostitutes naked, pretty much, on the stroll. Okay. Now, look, you might look, wow, you might be enticed, but you ain't picking up that prostitute and you're not taking her home.
That's what they don't get. They don't get that.
Mhm.
So the brothers have to start saying, "We just looking at you, boo, but we not wifing you."
And you know what? That's the case because everything that looks good isn't good for you,
Mhm.
right? And yes, you want a woman who might be a freak in the sheets, but you don't want her walking the street like that.
That's right.
Right? Because that's not the image you're looking to portray, right? But I think that for the brothers, and this is what I mean about the diminished role of the man. 40, 50 years ago, pretty much what Pop said, that was it. You pretty much didn't argue with Pop. Daddy said it, okay, this is what we're going to do.
Mhm.
Nowadays, basically, hey, Dad, you shut up. You know what I mean? Because that role has been diminished, right? So you have these women movements that tell you don't have to listen to any man, husband or not. You don't have to rely on any man. And how many times have you heard women say, I don't need a man? You hear that constantly. So for, again, the father that is active in the life of his family, his children, his community, you don't really want to hear, I don't need a man, because y'all are all the same. And listen, just last week, we had a guest on this show who said, all men cheat.
I heard that.
Okay, so is that a accurate and fair characterization? But that is the belief that is held by not just her. There are so many women across this country that hold that belief. So for a good man, good father, you're swimming upstream because you come into the relationship, you already a cheater, you're already hypersexualized, you already lazy, right? You already you're at an economic deficit,
The
right?
blood.
Right. So you got all this stuff going against you, right? Already. And you're trying to meet a woman, right? That one woman who doesn't hold those beliefs. Who now, you put your guard up when you're ready for a fight, right? You find that one sister who ain't ready for the fight, who's not preparing herself for a knockdown drag, who's saying, brother, look, I'm going to accept you as you are, as long as you are prepared, as long as you're not coming to me to be your mommy, to be your nanny, right? You coming to me to be a man, and I'm coming to you to be a woman, right? That's what men are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And along with that is the acknowledgement. Because let me tell you, I hear women going on and on and on about some dude. My man is this, my man is that. And you find out dude ain't got a job.
Jesus.
Dude might have 3 of his own teeth left.
Jesus.
Right? And it's like, blah, blah, my man this and my man that.
And his pants sag.
Right. You know what I mean? But for the brother that is out there every day grinding, you don't hear nothing about him.
That's not true. That's not true, Ron.
Where in America is the father acknowledged? Tell me where.
You have to hold the sisters. I don't care, like especially a sister that's conscious.
And
right?
I said that.
Right?
Mhm.
A sister that's conscious
Mhm.
about who we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's going to purpose herself to support her man. I'm a firm believer in behind every successful man is just a strong black woman. I believe that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I don't believe that we're not doing that. I believe that it's a lot of people who aren't doing it, but I don't believe because white people say the same thing. Oh, the dads are not recognized. The dads are not recognized. But the fact of the matter is that I think more black women than we want to acknowledge are recognizing our men. I think that the brothers have said, and because look, my father and my stepfather used to say, I say to them, what do you want for Father's Day? You know what they used to say? Well, my father specifically, he used to say, don't worry about it, don't get me anything. And the goal when I was a teenager and him saying, don't get me anything was because the following week after you get me something, you're going to be coming back because you don't have no money. You're going to go
Right.
You're going to go get something extravagant and then you're not going to have any money. But they both said the same thing. Like, don't get me anything. It got to the point where my father didn't even wear a tie. He hated ties.
Mm-hmm.
So I would never get him a tie. So I used to get him like underwear and socks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ralph, I used to get Ralph like short slippers. Just, we did that because unless my mom shopped for him, he didn't shop for himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think that more of us acknowledge our men than you actually recognize them.
Okay, you know what? We're getting close to that time. And, this is a conversation. I could go on with this, right? But we're going to leave it alone. I just wanted to let fathers know, right, that I understand how they feel. No, I do. And, there are a lot of good men out there, right? They don't hear that enough. What you hear on a daily basis is about the dude that's not doing what he's supposed to do.
Mhm.
And, good news travels, but bad news travels at light speed, right? So that's the problem. And, again, I don't want to not mention again Juneteenth. This holiday commemorates the end of this nightmare that was the transatlantic slave trade. 400 years we labored for this country and still have not gotten our due. It is only now that, 400 years later, that the state has acknowledged and recognized Juneteenth. No money, you know, after World War II, the Jewish people who were subjected to slave labor were paid billions of dollars. Well, we have yet to get no reparations. It's just the acknowledgement. And, many people may be satisfied with that, but I'm not. I think that we need to go on and continue to push for our just due, for our ancestors, for what they were subjected to, and what even we are subjected to right now today. 10 people were murdered in Buffalo because they were Black and they only wanted to shop. So we need to continue to acknowledge our ancestors and their sacrifice. And for those of you who may be listening, Monday, maybe just take a few minutes to reflect on some of your ancestors. Some, those and those you don't know. Grandparents, parents that may have, been out on the other side. Just take a minute to reflect on them and how much they meant to you and all they did for you during the years that they were here. So again, Romane, thank you for coming. I know it was a struggle this morning. We went on the same page this morning, but we got here, we got it together, and we thank you all for listening.
And just before we sign off, I just want to say Happy Father's Day.
Oh, thank you.
Happy Father's Day, Terry.
Thank you.
And happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, and to all the fathers who have gone on to a better place.
Mm-hmm.
We just recognize you and all of your efforts to get us where we are today. So,
Ashe.
Ashe.
All right, so you know what? We're going to bring this to a close, and what we're going to do next Saturday. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to be here next Saturday.
Oh gosh.
So that means you might be here holding it down.
Which means I'm definitely going to do something that will be for the ladies. And since we keep talking about all these therapeutic things and brokenness and stuff like that, I think we'll be talking about some stuff like that. I'll see if I can get some of the sisters out.
I'm sure you can.
Yeah, maybe Renee will come out too.
There you go. And that sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you know what? Again, thank you for listening, getting up with us on this Saturday morning. I know it's a struggle. The weekend goes by so fast, but thank you for joining us and continue to tune in and support Gynesis Radio. So thank you and have a good morning.
Good morning.